Was that the introduction? I was told to wait for the introduction, so I apologize for the poignant pause there. I'll go ahead and get rolling, and if someone runs out and tackles me, to go ahead and stop. All right, so let me just go ahead and get into it. Thank you guys for spending this morning with me. Good morning. Just as a quick introduction to myself, my name is Mike Nee. I head up products and marketing for Avangate. And just a quick introduction to Avangate so you know the perspective I'm coming from. Avangate is a global e-commerce service provider for software companies. We've been in the space for over 6 years in e-commerce and over 19 years in software, and have been in not only the software e-commerce space, but also the affiliate space for a number of years, where our affiliate side has just been doubling every year. Very exciting area, and one of the areas that we thought after leaving Affiliate Summit last year, we had to come back. We were on a mission to come back and make sure you guys understood that there was more to affiliates out there than travel, pharmaceuticals, et cetera, but software is an incredibly exciting area as well. But that's enough about me. We'll just blow through that. What I want to do is actually get a quick feel for who you guys are. That allows me to better direct my comments to make sure I hit what you guys are looking to hear. With that, let me just get a quick show of hands. How many of you guys are actually affiliates? Don't be shy. All right, great. So I think about, I'd say about 65, 70% of you guys are affiliates. How many of you guys are actually vendors of some sort? So about 10 of you guys, I'd estimate around 70, 45, 50 people. So about, 8, 10% or so, or 20 or 15%. My math is obviously not so good. You know, I'll make the joke, this is, I'm actually from MIT in my undergrad, and I'm just terrible with numbers. So just don't make too much fun of me about that. And how many of you guys actually already deal in software? Wow, about 13 of you guys. So it gives you a little bit of a feel. That's great, so thank you for that. So the first slide I have is absolutely broken. It was inserted on me. I apologize. Supposedly we have an interactive session that doesn't work on this machine, so I'll just go ahead and get past this. We've already just done our interactive portion. It's software for you, all right? So just as an overview, what are we going to hear today? Well, first of all, what is this thing called the software vertical, right? Just give you a little definition. What's the landscape? Who are the players? Just so we're all on the same page. Number two, why is it a great category for affiliates in particular? It's great for obviously vendors, but why is it a great category for affiliates to get into? And if it is so great, what are the specific subcategories that if you're looking to get into it, that we see are easy entry points as well as successful areas for software? And then getting into the meat of it, which is 5 case studies in terms of software affiliate success stories. And in this case, what we've done was not necessarily choose the biggest that we have, but folks that we thought were indicative examples of, you know, just where some of the classic areas that affiliates have entered into software, as well as some interesting twists on that and how they've been able to differentiate themselves and drive success, all right? And finally, of course, your call to action. What's your next move? So first, let's talk about the landscape of software. The vendor side. And of course, it stems all the way from the very big, and you guys know these guys, Microsoft, Adobe, you know, folks that you use every day, down through a variety of tiers of software, all the way down to the actually rapidly growing set of even micro independent software vendors or ISVs. I mean, if you look at the vendor space itself, it's actually only growing, right? Because the amount of software out there, from the devices, from the things that get up on stores, even smaller software, right? This space is only growing. I brought 2 examples here of 2 categories that are going very well. One, Bitdefender is a software vendor in the security space, and that's been a space that's just absolutely been growing. And another one, this one is this one in the PC tools space, IOBIT. Again, one that has just been growing in the space, one that has been doing very well. But again, indicative of some of the vendors that you'll see. And there's a whole tier of vendors that people just don't know about, but are great software. And hence, the people in the room here should be paying attention. On the other side, there's the merchants, right? And then again, it's an easy one to hit when you put up Amazon, right? The old granddaddy of affiliates. At the same time, what I thought was actually very interesting about Amazon was something that happened, I think, about 3 months ago, maybe 4 months ago. The left-hand column, right? If you look at the left-hand navigation, it's actually pushed down, the software and digital goods is actually pushed down all the other categories. It is an important category. It's something I think we all need to start thinking about in terms of how important is software to the space. What is actually going to be sold online, right? So that's point number one. But at the same time, point number two, and this is not necessarily just Amazon, but merchants in general, right? The amount of platforms out there, be it Kindles, PCs, Macs, connected devices, a lot of these things now come with software, right? The add-ons, the recurring revenue. The space for software is actually only growing, and the ability to add on, to be able to complement the products that are being sold with software and finding everyday uses on whether it's your devices, your tablets, or whatever, are actually only growing. And you'll see this throughout some of the examples that we show as well. And of course, there are the classic affiliates, right? Software is a considered purchase. The price points are high enough where people want to go through and understand and compare and contrast, right? So folks like Top 10 Reviews, classic affiliates, helping people get to that decision point where they're ready to make a choice and they move forward with purchase, right? And I put CNET here. It's an interesting model. They are affiliate as well, although they make a bunch of their revenue in advertising. Not just because they're affiliate, but they're actually a very interesting resource for those of you who are looking at software. Why? Download.com actually has, right off the bat, shows you how popular any title is, any vendor, right, in terms of their ability to drive downloads. And gives a great research for if you're looking for potential software to complement, let's say, travel, et cetera. You can actually go there and see, okay, what are the types of software that people actually are downloading in this category? How popular are they? How is it trending? Right? So it's an interesting category for you guys. But again, just laying out the real estate, the landscape of software. So let's talk now, just take a step back about the software vertical. The first thing, it's big. Sorry, just making sure everyone's awake in the morning. The software market is a very big category, and it's only growing, right? In this case, over 260 billion. I know that number's got enough zeros that none of us can actually realize what that thing really means anymore. But the important bit here is it's growing. As we were saying before, the number of titles, the number of vendors, these things are only growing. In fact, the category called SaaS, the software delivered as a service, is actually growing almost twice as fast. Some would put it at about 20 million in a couple years. Some would put it at about 30 million. And these are software that you use every day. As an entrepreneur, I've used a variety of tools that I only can access in the cloud, right? Whether it's my storage, email, or a variety of add-on tools now that I use day to day to schedule meetings, et cetera, right? But it is a rapidly growing category, and across the board, software growing. Now, getting into a little bit from a vendor perspective and what's really happening there and why that, and give you a little bit of feel for why does it lend itself to the affiliate market so well. Well, number one, the software is fundamentally moved online. I mean, when's the last time you guys saw an Egghead software, right? When's the last time you actually saw retail, that is dedicated to software, right? The process of buying software is actually fundamentally already moved online. People are buying it there. People are researching it there, right? And retail has become a shrinking piece of this. And that lends itself right into the wheelhouse of where the affiliates lie. Because when you look at what these software vendors need to do, and what they're not good at, is actually creating consumer demand, right? This is what you guys specialize in. How do you find those segments of customers and get them into that buying process? How do you make the software specific to them, right? And move them online, right? And the things that also are very interesting from a vendor perspective is when you look at the amount of affiliate revenue that comes from it. On average, software vendors drive about 15%, 10 to 15% of their revenue from affiliates, right? And some making over 30%. In fact, we have some that are actually even higher than that in terms of percentage of the revenue, right? And it becomes also very interesting because these guys have almost zero cost, right? Their cost structure is so low and the need to maintain a customer long term and get that initial sale is so high that these guys actually are willing to pass up a lot of their margins to the marketers who can get that initial sale to them, right? So again, just talk about structurally why this is so attractive and why software vendors are constantly looking for affiliates to expand their marketplace. And frankly, a bunch of you guys are already working in categories that are very related to software, right? This was taken from the ASTAT report back last year, and we look at about 20% of the categories, whether it's computer and electronics, office and business. These are categories that already have a high correlation to software and can sell software alongside, right? Now let's flip it back over. For the affiliates, what are the advantages for you guys? Right? Why is it such an interesting category to sell as an affiliate? Well, I mean, at a top level, it's fast to sell. You know, it's low maintenance to a certain extent from a vendor perspective, you know, sort of throughput perspective. And there's a recurring revenue aspect of it, which is very interesting. It's actually a little different than what you typically sell, right? So let me get into it. Number one, we talked about the margins here. It's greater commissions, right? On average, you can actually see commissions up to like 85% for software, right? Again, the initial sale is so much more important with that long-term tail for the customer, for the vendor, that they're willing to pass up margins which are, you know, compared to what, 50% that we see in physical goods, right? So the margins are there for you as an affiliate. But number two, there's just so many more chances. In fact, I was just having a conversation in the hallway about there's just so many more chances to convert a customer. Why? It's because you can actually download the software and try it, right? You can try for free. How many times do you get to just try something and it's just low friction, instantaneously? Try it, and if you like it, you end up paying for it because let's say it expires in a week or so, right? A paid trial or a free trial. And it just creates so many more opportunities to sell the customers that are passing through the types of sites, the type of marketing that you're putting together. Just one interesting aside, by the way, we were just doing some experimentation with some of our vendors. When we talk about paid trial, $10 paid trials are actually much more effective than a $3 paid trial. And I think, you know, we've been conjecturing and, of course, doing some questioning about why that is the case. It's sort of like wine, right? You don't really know what it is, but the price signals so much here. So from an effectiveness standpoint, I'm buying something that is a little more costly. Well, it probably doesn't have malware. Again, just signals out there around what to trust. But anyway, just thought it was interesting. Like I said, I mean, the main point here is that given the nature of software, the downloadability, the ability to trial, right, the freemium model, it's just much easier to get people to be able to try and then convert. So you get much greater opportunities to convert customers. And of course, it's easier to sell. It's a known need, right? People understand software. They understand they have a problem to solve. It doesn't have to be touched, right? There's an immediate gratification for it. You know, I want song, I download song, right? I want a piece of software within, you know, minutes, depending on my download speed. I have it available to me. Not to say that it's instantaneous, you have to convert the customer, but it is a much easier sell in many ways. And of course, overall, it's just easier to handle. There's no physical tracking of goods, there's no pushing of this stuff. The instantaneousness makes sure that the support nature is actually much easier to handle. And frankly, one thing that's very interesting here is that it's also an annuity. When I say that, it's because like a software vendor, you know, especially since software is increasingly becoming a subscription like a magazine, right? You can actually also build up a book of business, passive revenue, right? You sell a piece of software, and there are platforms out there that allow you to actually take a piece of all the renewals as well. So as long as that customer is still alive with that vendor, you will continue to earn revenue, a piece of that revenue as well. And that's very different in many ways than some of the other businesses that you could be in, right? In this case, building up a book of business where now over time, that just continues to bring in revenue and is sending you checks, right? And that's not a bad business to be in. Excuse me. So let's talk about some of the top selling categories. Hopefully I got you hooked where now we're just understanding, okay, Mike, you got me hooked. What are the categories that I should be looking at? Well, in this case, some of the top selling categories here are what you'd expect. The consumer titles, right? These are low friction sales that consumers are out there looking for, but they need some guidance in terms of what's the right software for them. So not surprisingly, utilities and security are a high affiliate selling category. At top level, it's about $3 billion, growing around 7%. But like I said, these are categories that people, you know, in the news, good news, bad news, security is going to sell, right? And it sells in bulk whenever any news hits. And people are looking for these things, but they need guidance. What's a good one? I mean, that's the hard part about software. I mean, how do I know a good one? It's just too complex for me. So that's where you guys have to come into play, right? And so some of the examples here, IOLO, PC Tools, these are all titles that are in that space. And we showed Bitdefender from before, or Kaspersky. Audiovisual tools. And this is another one where consumers are getting more and more into the audiovisual space, whether it's building up their own videos from VCRs or whatever. Burning DVDs is obviously a big category. It's about $2.5 billion. And actually growing around 13%, right? And again, where there's growth, there's opportunities to have players who are looking to get that marketing out there, to set up new products, right? Now, two other categories, well, one of them listed here, are big, but actually are hard categories to get into. I put a productivity here just because people always ask me, okay, so what about productivity? You see Word, you see a bunch of office tools, et cetera. It's a huge category, around $10 billion. So there is a ton of money to be made here. But it's not for the weak of heart, because this is actually primarily sold into B2B markets. You know, I think it's like over 80%, 75%, 80% into B2B, which means it's actually driven more by the resellers and bought in bulk from businesses rather than through affiliates. And as such, it's not as good as the categories you'd expect. In the same way, education. You know, we all see education software rising very quickly, and I know I'm keeping my eye on it. It's around a $4 billion market. It's growing very quickly. But it still doesn't have a strong affiliate base for it. Why? Because it's actually sold through very specific channels today. Educational groups, schools, governments buy the software in bulk. And the consumer market is just really starting to tip over. But like I said, we're keeping our eyes on it. But it's not a category that actually has a lot of affiliates today. And the vendors here don't really understand how to use the affiliates yet. So I think there's a little bit of that coming together. And ultimately, there's the monster category, which I think some of you guys probably know games. It's around a $47 billion category, obviously very large, still growing quickly, although under some pressure these days. And it's across the board. Titles there are both large and small, right? These are a very, very exciting sets of categories. But at the same time, of course, there are challenges here, right? It is a considered selling process, and you need to get the consumers past the decision point. In this case, pricing is always a question. Dependencies, do I have the right OS level? Is it, OS, Mac OS 10.1 compatible? There's a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. FUD is, we like to call it. Is this a cheap piece of software because someone's inserted some piece of malware in there? Can I really trust it? You hear so many stories about these pieces. How do I get past that decision point, right? Is it compatible? But at the same time, they need to also see that comparability, the trial aspects, which helps get you past that. Price, functionality, reputation, right? These are things that you see also on the comparison sites, and hence why these compare sites are actually so popular as a point of reference that customers pass through before they make a decision, right? So what are some of the best practices that we see in helping moving these prospects through the selling cycle? So while there's no recipe for success, you can build on some proven examples here or ideas that can help you build your software business online, right? We've chosen 5 examples, like I was saying before, not our biggest, but ones that I thought were very approachable, ones that you guys can pull some common lessons from. The first one is Incredimail. It's a fun little example. These guys, I'll just give you a quick description of who they are and then what they've done, and then I'll break down what some of the lessons for you guys are. Incredimail is a really interesting little product, very focused on what I call the technology laggards. I'm sure none of you guys fall in that category. These guys provide a freemium mail product, chats, etc., where directed at the 65 and older crowd, primarily women, who are using their systems to communicate. But with such a product that actually attracts a very focused audience, as a software vendor, they actually have the opportunity to become an affiliate. So for those vendors out there, this is an idea. Surrounding your product with additional add-on products from software catalogs that can just actually significantly contribute to your revenue. The premise behind this is, again, a freemium Incredimail product. Again, very much focused. You can see the ease of use, all these things directed, everything about their products directed at the simplicity, right? And actually, the add-on product here was about how do you make my machine run simple. Even their positioning, they've twisted the positioning on the products so that it gets right back to their core audience. Your machine's running a little slow. We know how to make it faster, and you can trust us, right? We've surrounded you with a bunch of other products. And of course, as a vendor, freemium allows them to sell upgraded products, whether it's better support, et cetera, as well as other ways to monetize their customers, toolbars, et cetera. So the takeaways here, though, is around getting that narrow focus on that customer base. As a product, they've created a community that loves their product online, right? And able to go ahead and add not only features and extensions that keep that product focused, but add on associated products from the affiliate catalogs. And they're actually in front, just by the nature of their product. I think there's something like a couple 100 million impressions every month to be able to constantly be cross-selling, upselling, and educating their customer base on other areas around other products that they could be looking at. And of course, it's virally spread because of email itself, very much the Hotmail kind of model, right? In this case, the conversion rate's around 10%, which is actually quite good. We see conversion rates around 2%. Not to throw you off a little bit, part of this is that they're sending emails out and their conversions on that are actually part of the email and then they're converting through, which brings them down to a more reasonable rate of conversion. But it's working very well for them to be able to continuously get in front of their customers with new products. Now in this case, a second example is Freesoft TV Block. It's actually a very classic example of like the one guy in Japan who just knows everything about about audiovisual tools, right? This guy is just super deep, writing about how-tos, creating videos, just getting people to understand and picking sort of curating content from around the web and make it into Japanese. So his audience will come to him around audiovisual stuff, and then he can actually then cross-sell these type of products on his site, right? And then, like I said, he has his audience, although his category is actually fairly broad. Right? He takes on the whole category and actually comes up with all types of really cool tips and tricks, videos, etc. that brings in around 2 million page views monthly, right? And it's, like I said, a very classic example of being able to choose your content area, get to know it very quickly, and then starting to build a bit of a community around that and knowledge around that. And like I said, while his conversion rates are a little lower at around 0.8%, his traffic is so high that it's actually become a nice business for him, right? Now, this is actually a very interesting model. In fact, unfortunately, Nico, who heads up BitsDeJour, was going to join us. He got booted out because he had the wrong badge type, I think. But at the same time, this is actually a very interesting model. BitsDeJour is actually like the Groupon. In fact, they were before Groupon, but there's like the Groupon of software. These guys have the daily deal down pat. And you got to think about why they can do stuff like this. Well, partially because margins are so fat on the software side that they're able to come up with the 50, 60% discounts and drive a unique deal into the marketplace, right? But actually, even more interesting is something that Nico, and if you were here, he'd tell you about, is called the Bitsters, right? It's this community that he's created of very kind of passionate software guys who just love to just tear apart software and talk about it, right? And they all come on this community to be able to talk to each other about it as well. Now, that not only creates a huge set of content that gets people through that decision process, but it also creates a bunch of very viral kind of messaging out there as these guys talk about what posts they put up, and again, creating the opportunities for BitsDeJour to also leverage their marketing tools to get not only the word out, but also point people back to this valuable set of content. And it has a lot of Google juice, right? Now, this model, again, plays on the margin side. But what's become even more interesting is that BitsDeJour has its own set of affiliates, right? How? So what happened is they've actually created, with this super high margin and the ability to create these deals of the day, affiliates who will uptake a widget on the side that says these are some of the deals of the day. And he shares some of his margin with them because, again, the margins are fat. Right? And so now he's been able to multiply his efforts with a set of affiliates who just very easily just plop it on and have a high converting widget that they get better than advertising rates from. Right? And it's actually a great little tool. I'm sure Nico would be here applauding, saying, okay, everyone here sign up for my tool. But again, I think the interesting thing here is that it allows him to get into avenues that he doesn't necessarily have. The social networking pieces. Some of these guys that he has sub-affiliated to him have broader audiences around a variety of different categories that he's just not in. That allows him to sell interesting or get awareness onto these interesting categories. All right. So what are some of the takeaways here for you guys from a BitsDeJour? Right. Obviously, it's who they are. But one thing that allows them to do is number one, leverage the margins. You guys should be leveraging the margins of software to create attention, right? The deal of the day is quite interesting aspects of this. But of course, the other aspect of this is the content. How do you create that content, whether it's like Freesoft and building it themselves or creating this community? The third bit here, which I think is very interesting, is, like I said, that affiliate marketing. How do you create value for all the players around BitsDeJour? On one side, he has the affiliates that he's sub-affiliated to. And he's creating value to them because it's very easy for them to add it on. He's sharing some of his fat margin with them and creating a lot of additional marketing. But at the same time, he's actually creating a tremendous amount of value for the vendors. And he's thought about all the pieces of how he balances these off. And again, like I said, this is why it's a bit more of an interesting model. The vendors gain a tremendous amount from Nico and BitsDeJour. Why? Right? BitsDeJour is actually finding a bunch of really unique software out there because the community itself is constantly sourcing up things that everyone should know about, things that people can trust, things that are unique software. There's one piece of software that comes up every year on BitsDeJour, which is this graphical approach of laying out storylines for writers. And it's a very cool tool that people just don't find normally. They have no marketing budget to get out there. But because of folks like BitsDeJour, he's able to raise it up, have enough credibility because of this Bitsters, these guys writing about it, that it becomes an easy buy and actually getting a constantly new set of customers into this software, right? But even on top of that, he creates value for vendors who want to launch new products, right? Regardless, these guys will give him 100% of the margin. Why? Because even if this thing flops, this community of Bitsters are writing detailed feedback about this product, which teaches the vendors so much that they would have never known about their products, and enhancements, ideas, new categories they can get into. Again, he's thought about how he's balancing off all these different players in the value chain and bringing them a tremendous amount of value. And that's actually how, which is the next learning from these guys. How do you get into the attention of the vendors, right? Obviously, every platform is going to allow you to communicate with your vendors. You can become, as you grow in size and scale, you start getting into different tiers, which allows you to actually get special deals from the vendors, and that's where BitsDeJour is. And so again, they can get some of these unique deals into the marketplace. But they also have gotten to a point where they add so much value to the vendors that these vendors are willing to give them special deals. And again, thinking about how you balance off the categories you want to deal with, and potentially communicating directly with some of the vendors looking for those discounts that can drive these special campaigns for these vendors, right? And the benefit for these guys is almost a 20% conversion rate, right? When you talk about these type of deals of the day, the conversion rates are incredibly high. And then by the time they get there, the intent to purchase is quite high. So now let's take it back to the fourth example, a much more simple example. In this case, a classic community site, MySEE. These guys are focused on the consumer electronics space, the devices, software, et cetera. And what they've really done is created a forum for user-generated content around these areas of technology, right? And are able to cultivate this community to be able to talk about some of the areas that they're most interested, the categories most interested. So how does MySEE actually monetize? What you'll see is actually in the text, not only do they offer some of the links around advertising, but within the text they've actually auto-tagged the affiliate areas that can actually drive them money. So as it comes up in the conversation, whether it's DVD Fab, which is one of the vendors in our catalog, or even Sony Walkman, just generating these tags allow people to, again, move directly into action as they read about these things. So what are some of the learnings that we take away from MySEE, right? Again, it's about the content. How you generate it is an open choice. But in this case, creating that strong community regardless, right? If you can create that interest area around a focused area, generates the traffic, again, allows you to market around that. And again, crowdsourcing some of the promoted software that actually will naturally bubble to the top that then you can actually add to the things that you're offering. And in this case, the value add here is just really the reviews, the content, and they have fairly normal conversions. But again, it's almost one of those things where once you can set something like this up, it's actually not a tremendous amount of effort. Just keep it going, right? And again, one of those things that falls right into the wheelhouse of affiliates to be able to set up very focused areas and then just get the community going and then help cultivate it. It's not a full-time thing for a lot of these guys, but again, brings in a very healthy revenue for them. Now, the fifth example here is actually slightly different. I think that this is an interesting model for you guys. Silicon Action. These guys are Brazilian catalog and really focus in on the local user experience. Now, there's a couple things that make these guys unique. First of all, they're not just an affiliate, they're also a reseller. And that allows them to monetize in a variety of ways. But number two, they actually focus on not on necessarily a specific area of software, but they focus on a geo area. Brazil. And they focus on a very specific aspect of the value of the purchasing process, which is just the buying side. They don't actually focus at all on the selling side. They don't help people discover software. They don't help people really investigate and learn about the software. What they do is they say, okay, once you want to buy something, you come to us, right? Because we've optimized that buying experience for the Brazilians, right? They know the Brazilians and they know what local currencies they want to use. They will know the final words they want to just finally convert, right? And that becomes a very interesting angle. In this case, being able to have only, I think on average, 2 minutes on their site before someone just converts into a purchase, which is, I mean, of course, it would be magical for many of you guys. You know, obviously, one thing they have to do to be end of the rainbow like this is just have an extensive catalog. You know, just working, and this is true of actually all of our successful affiliates. They're going to work with multiple affiliate networks, or and then look at different multiple catalogs. But in this case, for them, they just have to be everything, right? The end of the rainbow, you just want to purchase. I just go to the site, and now I see it with the words in Portuguese. I see payment methods that I accept. Again, Brazil, more recent into credit. And hence, you know, things like installment payments, they have specific credit cards that they want to use, Bolero, et cetera. And again, needing a platform that allows them to go ahead and have this highly optimized, highly localized buying experience. So one of the other interesting aspects of here, you know, and obviously this happens in every category of affiliates, is the conflict with things like AdWords. But these guys have actually created so much value for the vendors that they're working with that when it comes down to certain brands and products, associated with, like, say, Brazil, or the geo, where the consumers are, the vendors actually allow these guys to use their brand words and actually, again, making that part of their marketing mix of how to drive people to their audience. And of course, they're using things like newsletters and constantly driving the awareness of them as a purchasing portal for Brazil, right? You don't have to live there to do it. I mean, obviously, this model can apply to a lot of different areas, but I thought it was very interesting, the twist here, that they focused in on the buying process and specializing there for a group. Now, again, some of the takeaways, you know, a localized buying experience, we talked a lot about, but they recognize their role. Rather than going into that front end of the process, getting into that end of the rainbow aspect of it. And again, looking at how they can bring value, the marketing, they understand their audience. They understand the words that people there want to buy. They, in fact, for some of these vendors, if you come from a certain geo area, even if you're on the vendor site, they'll actually link you into these guys to finally purchase, because the conversion rates to buy are so high off of these guys' site. Again, I think it's just a very interesting model. And the final takeaway here for you guys is, you know, is it an interesting model to also become a reseller as well as an affiliate? And actually think about having a platform that allows you to make that experience very seamless. Depending, you know, again, for the consumer, they're just picking up software. But for you guys, actually having multiple ways you're monetizing that, right? And the benefits here is huge conversion. Again, they're up there with the daily deals at around 20%. Remembering that the average is around 2%, right, from a conversion perspective. And they are linked in a variety of ways from the vendor and allowing them to use those type of keywords. So some interesting takeaways around the software market. I think some interesting areas around some of these case studies. I wanted to actually reserve some time because we actually have some experts in the room for questions, but let me just sum up a little bit on some of the takeaways that we have here around the software vertical. Number one, it is a rich vertical. We already talked about that with its inherent advantages of high margins and, again, that conversion rate. But then you have to think about how people that plays, which is people can trial. There's a freemium aspect to be able to sell software that allows you to have multiple points where you can convert the software, the prospect, right? And it can act as both a standalone, where we actually see a tremendous number of these guys actually providing microsites. They're constantly trialing in terms of what's the messaging, what's the right packaging to be able to provide ways of converting, right? But it's also, when we look at the categories, it's also, right today, it's very much consumer focused, right? We talk about utilities, we talk about security, we talk about all the visual tools. And that's where we see the, most of the emphasis today and most of the conversion today. But there are growing opportunities for those of you who are not weak of heart into the productivity side. Those of you who are focused on, or may have already some focus on the B2B side, there is growing categories of opportunities here. Again, huge number of businesses, especially on the SOHO side, buying like shrink-wrap software. They behave very much like consumers, and that actually is a very big category for some who can actually live in that category. Of course, the call to action here is around getting started, right? There are plenty of networks you can join, whether it's Avangate, whether it's One Network Direct, whether it's like Plimus, right? Or even folks like ClickBank. While they may not necessarily specialize in software, they actually have digital goods, and again, their focus there about ebooks. Very much similar in a way in terms of how it can be sold, right? And actually, one of the conversations is very similar to the conversation I was having outside. People talk about how the PC business is it really shrinking, right? But the real point here is that even in this post-PC era, and that's just sort of a Steve Jobism, the software business is actually more vital than ever. As you were saying before, the growth in software is actually only increasing, and the number of vendors and the number of platforms and areas that they're selling on is actually only exploding, which means the opportunities to be marketed, the opportunities for affiliates to be able to drive and monetize that is actually only increasing as well, right? So when we look at this trend around software, the focus here is that when we look at this push, the big point here is to find a parade, in this case, the big trend towards a number of vendors out there, the number of opportunities to be able to sell software, and then to choose your focus area. If there is a common trend across all these case studies, it's been around the fact that they understood where they sat in that value chain. Was it a very focused subset of customers? Was it a geography? Was it a part of the buying process? And to just get in front of it, right? With that, let me go ahead and open it to questions. We did want to reserve some time. We actually have plenty of people in the audience who we wanted to be able to share some ideas with as questions came up. In addition, to encourage you guys to ask questions, because we did want to make this more of an interactive session, we actually bought a bunch of prizes for the first set of people who will actually ask questions. Christian, he's got a bag of goodies here for those who want to step up and start asking questions about how they can potentially get into it. Feel free. I think the way we're going to run it is actually the microphone. We apologize. Supposedly there was going to be the way to text in questions and then have it show up on the screen in an interactive fashion. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be set up in this room, so we're going to have to do it the old-fashioned way, which is to line them up. And of course, if Christian doesn't give you something that you like, you can just beat on him until he submits and gives you one of the other different things that we brought with us.
My name is Dwayne, and we have a software that's in the cloud SaaS product, and just some advice on. We're starting an affiliate program right now. It's currently in-house. We're looking at some networks. What would be your advice for us to kind of have a successful affiliate program?
Sure, and I'll start. And like I said, we've had the folks in our room that actually run our affiliate program, and I'm sure they'll have a lot of words to follow up on that. The question was, and I was told to do this, is we have a new SaaS vendor starting up an affiliate program to look at how to multiply their sales force and multiply their marketing, and what would be the way to start? Well, I think there's two things, and I've actually heard this multiple times from the affiliates that we work with and vendors we work with as well. Absolutely look first at networks. I mean, they have a lot of the infrastructure to help you get started. It seems like it'd be easy for some of the components, but to actually be able to bring in the number of affiliates that you want, to actually start monetizing that and actually have a trusted network where the affiliates actually will have visibility to what's actually being purchased, et cetera, lends itself towards actually starting and getting involved right away with an affiliate network. For a SaaS company in particular, which is kind of interesting, one of the things that actually you do have to look at is sort of that whole activation approach, right? How do these guys get paid on that upfront side? And it's actually, I don't want to bore everyone with that because from the vendor side, I know a lot of us here were affiliates. It actually may be something that we can take offline because we work with a bunch of SaaS companies that are fundamentally going affiliate as well, and using that for either referrals or even moving some of these guys more almost into a reseller type of role. That it actually can work very well for a SaaS provider. You guys, do you have any additional thoughts on that in terms of some of the guys you work with?
I would also say that if you're a vendor who has a SaaS product, can't use affiliates, it's best to offer them also something for
So just to repeat some of that advice for those who may not have heard in the back, the point here, and we talked a little bit about it, if we can keep the lights on, that'd be great as well.
You're in the spotlight.
I feel like I'm in Chicago, you know, like the play. You know, maybe I should be doing a stint on the chair. No, for the folks in the back of the room, the answer here was that affiliates are increasingly recognize that they can build this book of business, that they can actually benefit from the recurring nature of, let's say, a software delivered as a service, or in this case, a subscription business model. And therefore, the advice is also make sure that they understand that they will actually participate as a customer renews on a month-to-month basis. They will take a piece of that revenue as well. And that actually becomes part of it. And I'll tell you why. I mean, for those of you who may not understand sort of the dynamics of the software as a service industry, software as a service is more of how you deliver it. It's in the cloud. You know, I use my Gmail or whatever. But the model in terms of payments is actually, in many ways, cheaper. Right? People don't expect to pay full license value for perpetual on a regular basis. And so the amount of money becomes smaller. How do you make sure to entice your affiliates is actually making sure they understand they're going to get the long tail of revenue as the customer stays with you. And again, we didn't talk about the type of software you're in. There are plenty of software where either the affiliate or the reseller will actually stay involved over time, and they're continuing to add value in terms of saying, you know, maybe they have a community of a user group that's around your software and actually constantly adding value in terms of advice and how people get the most out of that software. Again, you want to keep these guys in the game, and therefore wanting them to participate in the upside of all the renewals as the product goes along. Hopefully that helps. Okay, next question.
Thanks. My name is Jess. I'm affiliate / a consultant. I was just wondering, and this is a very broad question, but I'm very interested in the mobile application space.
I'm sorry?
Mobile apps.
Oh, Bible apps. Got it.
And I was just wondering if, you know, in terms of selling apps on mobile devices, because I'm not that familiar with that particular market, what do you see as the major challenges and opportunities in that space at this point in time?
And that's an excellent question, by the way. I mean, obviously, at this point in time, devices are very, well, I think, how many of you guys have an iPhone or an iPad in the room? Right. How many of you guys are dealing with any other type of device? Exactly. So we have basically a 90% adoption of Apple-type products right now from a connected device perspective. Now, will this change? Yes, but now, so let's talk about the reality of today. The reality of today is that the App Store actually owns this marketplace for the most, right? And so when you look at connected devices in general, you now have to deal with those type of onerous rules. You see folks like Amazon with their Kindle, people actually have brand value, able to break away and actually ask their customers to not necessarily just buy on the App Store, where it's just very easy, I already have my credit card down, et cetera, but actually go back through either within the app or go to the website and actually up my subscription to be able to buy something more, like an add-on, so that the thing that's actually in the App Store is just sort of like a teaser or a way to get in. And that's a harder road to hoe in the short term, right? In fact, that plays very much in the SaaS market as well, in terms of how you purchase and how you keep that friction low in terms of how you purchase. Now, that said, there are other ecosystems. If we're talking about Bible, right, type of content, and let me just take it a little bit away from just the sort of the religious area, obvious ebooks, et cetera, have a much broader ecosystem of how people will pay for it, right? And Kindle and these other guys will continue to keep that market more alive. But when you talk about add-on applications, in the short term, it's still very much focused on the app stores, right? What we see coming, and again, can we predict the future? Yeah, I'm sure you guys next year will be throwing spears at me saying, you guys had it all wrong. But the reality is we see this market fundamentally getting more diverse, right? The app stores will dominate a certain segment for sure. But already you see that in the corporate market, you know, people have to load apps, right? They're going to have specific apps they want to load on. How do you bypass, or how do you load apps into the iPhone? How do you get into that? So, and Android itself continuing to expand, right? But with this expansion of all these marketplaces, not only will there be control, but there's going to be a long tail of applications which will never find the light of day within an app store. And therefore, they need to continue to find a way to get to market. How is that? I mean, everyone in this room is their answer, right? Which is back to the affiliate side. Because they need to draw people directly to their apps, and then there will be more and more ways to load your content directly into your device without breaking it. And you look at the predictions, this is all the way people are playing out the market, even though Apple is actually trying to control that long tail. Does that make sense?
It
Sorry,
does,
we kind of rambled a little bit, but
I've got a quick follow-up question to that. Just wondering, because to me it seems as though, because it is a challenge that all the purchases are done, at least for the iOS, through the Apple Store.
Right.
But in terms of generating the leads that result in a conversion, it seems as though if you're the person that you're driving these people to the App Store to buy those products.
Right.
And you can show the vendor that that's in fact what you've done.
Right.
You should be able to get potentially some affiliate income from that. But like I said, I'm not familiar with the market.
Absolutely.
So.
And so it's I mean, obviously underneath, and Christian could talk about how some of the mechanics of that work, the affiliate pieces of this, and I was alluding to this before, because you are, as you get onto these devices, going to have more and more people who can actually build software very quickly. And therefore, there's going to be more titles, more vendors, and these guys looking for ways to get to market. And so short-term aside in terms of how you load things onto your device, the marketing of that is still going to be important. Christian, you want to talk a little bit about how people would actually register as the links go through to purchase?
On the mobile world?
Yeah.
Actually, there are a couple of mobile affiliate networks already available, and basically they have either pay-per-install or pay-per-save models. So yeah, it's a market where it's expected to grow in the following years. The PC and the Mac software titles are still
bigger at the moment. Okay.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the question. And so for those of you who didn't hear the answer, again in the back of the room, I'll try to channel Christian at this point in time, who actually is, like I said, running this on a day-to-day. There are a variety of mobile-specific affiliate networks that actually are providing some of that flow-through and tracking. And are we going to give her the teddy bear? Isn't that nice? Again, you can beat on him if you want something else. And again, it's always fun to beat on Christian whenever possible. But again, the main point that Christian was saying was that there are affiliate networks out there that help provide that tracking, that help provide that flow-through. And the loading now is still the question, how fast those affiliate networks are going to grow. Again, is a little bit of the, waving the wand in terms of understanding how fast the broader set of marketplaces around these mobile devices or connected devices will appear. Next question.
Hi, I hope you'll forgive my question. I came to this session more with an interest in the niche marketing than the software. And what I'm wondering if there might be other people here as well interested in these success stories as a good model to follow. And I'm wondering, I come from a company that just started an online presence and an affiliate, our own in-house affiliate network, selling aroma diffusers and health and wellness products. And I'm wondering what kind of lessons could we draw from these success stories for our very different market?
Want to give it a go? Adriana? So I think people heard the question, which was, okay. And then, as much as we want to build it up, and again, the picture is always kind of fun. It's New York, right? The lesson learned is still very much the same. So if I could sum up what Adriana just said, and for those of you who don't know, Adriana has been actually the genesis behind our affiliate program from years ago, and it has watched it, like I said, double in size year to year. But her lesson here is it's a little bit back to basics, guys. I mean, there's a level of focus that's needed when you talk about niche. And what we try to do is show you that focus can be in a variety of ways. Is it geographic? Is it part of the value chain in terms of buying versus selling? Is it, if it was in the selling side, how do you actually start creating some of that content, whether you generate it yourself or whether you can create a community? And there are folks who just love software that are out there. But the second lesson here is not just in terms of your focus, but also how you surround yourself. And so building an affiliate network is, as with the SaaS example, is interesting because you know some of the players in your space. But getting that program and accelerating it is actually quite hard. And so getting into a niche affiliate network, and I mentioned some that specifically go into software, and there are those who are even sub-niche at that, is a great way to start. And if you want to then get these people into your own affiliate program, that's okay. But it absolutely is a great way to get started because it presets a visibility to you very quickly, helps set some preset deals so these guys can start trying you and you can learn a lot from that process as well. And then you can figure out who's really selling you at that point in time and then draw that down into something, a more specific relationship. Sort of like BitsDeJour, like I said, they generate so much value that they are actually then invited and then brought together to be tighter relationship with some of the vendors as well. Thanks.
If I remember right, I think you said that the freemium model was converting at something over 20%. I just wondered if that's correct, what percentage of those people then go ahead and make the cash purchase? And then from an affiliate perspective, are affiliate revenues only paid on the cash sale, or there's sometimes also typically commissions paid on a freemium download?
Actually, do you want to talk to some of the examples we've got, Christian or Adriana? The question, I should repeat the question anyway. The question was, given the freemium model and that people are converting basically for free, right? So affiliates don't see anything. What is the percentage of conversion from free into a paid model? And then from there, what is the payment for?
Where's the revenue to affiliates? Is it only on the paid sale,
right,
or do you typically pay just to get the customer's name and for the freemium download?
So let me give you at least one piece. And again, this is now being more broadly in terms of a freemium model. I mean, you're seeing usually, depending on the type of software, Incredimail is a little different because it has a higher conversion rate. But at a high industry level, you're talking about a 2 to 5% conversion of people into the premium product. Well, that's not to say that they don't surround themselves with other add-on products as well, because that niche becomes now very focused, right? In terms of how they get paid, again, it depends on the affiliate network that you're a part of in the platform, and do they include you in that, right? But the deal structures are all very much, that I've seen, are very similar, right? You still get paid that margin for the deals. Christian, did you want to add?
Okay, and so
yeah, so the interesting thing here, guys, is when we talk about the conversion of freemium, it's the fact that you've now got a locked-in relationship with the vendor, right? And the vendor is actually kind of responsible to try to cultivate that person into a paid, and you will gain the revenue at the backside. But you have to make sure that the platform is supporting that and making sure that you are still registered in and will be paid on the recurring revenue on the backside. That was my main point.
Yeah. Okay.
Good.
There are some programs that will pay out on the initial lead.
Yes.
So it just depends on what you're looking to promote. I know like SEO Moz, for example, doesn't
that's true.
They don't pay recurring revenue, but they do pay. I think it's like a $25 payout if you send someone into their freemium subscription.
Yeah, I mean, and this not to say there aren't other models out there, guys. That's a great. Thank you very much, by the way. The point was that there are those out there who actually pay sort of the finder's fee to get you converted, right? And there are those who will pay for, did it convert to a call, click to call. So there are other models out there. And given the software model, right, where the recurring is so interesting, they will actually pay for that finder's fee. They will pay that upfront, even if you don't get it. And again, people are playing with that model because they're trying to figure out how to incite you guys, right? How to get you guys excited by this. They need to give you something, right?
Hi, my name is Michael. I have a question concerning the growth, the future growth. Where is that growth coming from? Is it coming from emerging markets? Is it coming from the paradigm shift to the cloud with SaaS vendors? And just
it's a great question. So there, like I said, there's certain categories that are growing, Mike. But emerging markets are actually part of a heavy growth aspect of this. So China is a substantial portion of that increasing spend. Not to say that the U.S. market isn't growing. I'm just saying when we look at super high growth, right, the numbers, they're bumped up. So the basic U.S. growth is still around 6, 8, depending on where we are. But then when you start going into Asia or the emerging countries, Russia and China specifically, what you're seeing is a very substantial premium on that in terms of growth. Those guys are not only buying hardware but software incredibly fast, and the consumer market is actually rising up very quickly. Right? It's interesting, we have a variety of Chinese vendors as well, and where they're seeing some slowdown in the US market, they're actually turning to the Japanese market, which is also a very large market for software, right? And growing very quickly as well. Thank you. It's a good question.
Hi, I'm pretty new to the game, so I'm just trying to familiarize myself with certain terms, okay?
Sure.
So the first question I have is, and I'm guessing, I think I might have an idea of what you're talking about, but I need some clarity. What exactly is an affiliate network? Is that like a forum where you get online and you talk to other affiliate marketers? Is it that type of situation?
No. An affiliate network, so I can talk from our perspective. An affiliate network, we have, what, 25,000 affiliates within the network. They are registered within the network to participate. And so when a vendor comes in, they basically say, look, to this affiliate network, this is the products I'm offering. This is the commissions I'm offering on this product. And within that network, or the platform that supports that network, they'll put in things like marketing collateral, the advertising little graphics, et cetera, that help their affiliates sell, right?
So is that something like ClickBank?
Yes.
That's okay.
Yes,
all right.
exactly.
And another thing I wanted to ask you, a niche. A niche is like, is that like a market that implies supply and demand? Like your niche is, let's say, toothpaste. So you have to find who, well, everybody needs toothpaste. But
I was that's a big the niche of not using toothpaste is actually the niche, but yeah.
Yeah, that would be the
we don't know who they are. No one wants to hang out with these guys.
Exactly. It's like a marketplace where you have supply. And
well,
you have
when we say
demand.
niche, because every year you talk, Commission Junction talks about, okay, find your niche. Is it writing about dog food, right? For goodness sake, right? It's if you find that passion where you can be authentic about it, right? Find your niche, get close to it, and then you can build a community around which you'll build up trust, right? And the same with software, right? The thing about software though is it's big margin, right? There's a bit of a considered purchase, and that's why we say it's a niche that you guys should consider as well, just because. Typically, when we leave affiliate network, we don't see software as much.
Oh, okay.
But it is, like we said, it's time because it's very much growing and one that is selling now very quickly through affiliates.
Oh, and finally, I heard you mention something about mobile affiliates. Does that involve basically marketing through your cell phone?
Christian?
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Customers are entering that website from their mobile phones or from the Apple Store or this
Right.
Yeah, so the mobile affiliates, as a network, they're just specialized in actually making sure that those who actually are advertising or driving sales through that channel, and they specialize in the type of marketing components that would actually go into a more optimized device, right?
All right, thank you.
Great, and so I think we only have a couple minutes. If two more questions, if anyone else has one, but
I'll be quick. I work mostly in the B2B space,
right.
And what I'm curious about is what Microsoft and Google don't get about affiliate programs. Their margins are horrific. When I look at the margins available in the consumer space, any idea if they are looking at their affiliate programs at all? And if not, are there any great options for exchange out there? Or something like that.
We are actually keeping our eyes very closely on the B2B side because it actually is growing. Part of it is that you have to look at supporting all types of models when you go on the B2B side because resellers become so important in that space. So it all depends on where you sit. If you look at Microsoft in particular, around 75–85% of, let's say, Office is actually driven by the B2B side. Why? Because the consumer side, even though they sell about 45–50% directly to consumers, the margins on that are very, very thin to them, right? They include it in certain packages and bundles, and so they don't have a lot of margin to play with there. It's actually when you get into the reseller side where much more of the margins go. These guys who are selling to companies in bulk, right? Mm-hmm. So like I said, it's a much more specialized environment where you have even handfuls of procurement sites that people go to buy Microsoft Office and Word or some of these tools. Now, I think that where we'll see uptake is in some of the shrink wrap pieces, software as a service, and actually being an affiliate for those type of things that are now entering very quickly into the lower ends of the market and in terms of a credit card type of basis, are become very interesting opportunities into this very big business-to-business space. And if you look at where the analysts are saying, if you look at where where the financial guys are looking, they do see that growth happening in terms of consumerization and the buying approach at the lower ends of the business-to-business side.
Thanks.
You guys, thank you so much for sticking with me here. I hope you guys took away something around the software affiliate. And if you guys are interested in learning more, please take the road to booth 49. Not only do we have other good giveaways, but those of you who are leaving your business card with us, we're giving away a personalized iPad at the end. And so very much worth it, even if we can't sell onto iPads very well. All right, with you guys, thank you guys very much, and I hope you guys have a great conference.